Advantage one is leadership. Protect yourself. And another under the prevent with the secret. Now try to turn in the third place, but it was that one wasn't it. A high tech was under the such a similar sort of I don't think it's more than we all when I was the first version of the imagination of the thing that you're going to use. These are the wrong use the revision reactions from an experts. This is personalization for transferring investors to the industry. The body and the room future worlds or the beginning of the company because as well. Now the shareholders should be the China was especially the donors with this video needs for coordination between private companies, the university, and the government. Chinese future technology serving now very much into weaponization of USD demands, not only strengthen that protection solves that is key private capital for commercial fusion development. Bear 24. Fusion is going to get started up on the center cost within the new companies ultimately all the great by that they sell across that the aviation companies leadership ability to bring around the best service on the economic companies like tech, but recently access to all the insurance investors for entering the industry, driving bankruptcies cost effective housing before. The issue of government action has the deal that information on the research code valuation sector, the support of the right to see the right time on analysis investment, facts are requested that is right Microsoft which I think figure out how expected how fusion is the linchpin of great power companies who gains the first mover advantage guaranteed global dominance. So 24. Fusion providing also energy with the fusion will from the second investment. They should be given the evidence study to the goals and design of the vision even to all the terms of secret benefits gain and edge. Efficient to be one set the celebrate each of the parties and don't be seen on the market of this. The enormous person over the Chinese expansion tries to move forward order, access to dynamics, supporting terrorists, some terms of vision, so and the BMD wars on 19. The PRC charged US prime sector replaced the international orders to DPRC 6 overall nation states because obviously the nation of family was a rise of the Muslim diversification of space war and the power of stop until the world election versus mission peace rest on the PRC falling backwards multiple escalation factors World War III last 23. The use of the government to question the China return to the order trend once we roll out the institutions so the extension and expansion is move with us provide with the plus and so on I think plus we go on together so what what has been and we're not there we're going to have an economic crash by the same event with the chancellor start farming accident much and there gets an event with the process of developing future breaks back and seeing nuclear norms that great momentum for global government and sailing of global peace and radicalizing international diplomacy career. That's 22. Fusion with the new border based on fusion and order perhaps this developing fusion mitigate against topic just conflict against version of disclosing future and online just like disclosing care and articles and this is from universal global features and the world's first global ceasefire remain the UN system. Otherwise, the routing of international cooperation throughout control makes the third nuclear inevitable. Hollywood 24. We appear to be entering a third invasion after international governments that's by the Article and Robert Ross decided to assume to with the black as really the news to real quickly, but as the actors use as the terror international cooperation solves the largest of external threats. Burn study. Diplomacy has never been so important when confronting the most serious crises. Pandemic agents, collapse of books, happening with reconstruction of the wars, and national press parties, diplomacy, not the down, diplomatic alliances. Fusion solves the extracted nonsense, efficient, prevents meltdown, breakers, and shoot. But if you know nature better, know the voices not really hard, so that voice the follow name and our different versus actually know along the voice melted constitution of 14. If you think you use Matthew's whole the exact same, I won't before reacting to anything happen to our world, we have for experience 24 hours, we have to probably run out, even reacting to meltdown, fusion, music, global copy, and social stability are two. Fusion ability to go from stability, people are farming, energy access to those in nature, improving health, growth and social stability, ability to put the same anymore, internet, urgent, humanitarian need, inequality, collapse of societal resilience, at least extinction, 2 and 24. High quality overseeing institutional quality science and fairness, Alcoba, to go extend reduction of rights, public and collective action, which part good, institutional quality data capture, consensus, body and responsibility, learning income shareholder, orientation and submission, bias, which is capital restore, public is over quality, civil resilience, cash organization, conditions, police, believe in global isolation, more vision, use the volume of being legally, interest in polarization, get the public standards, like reserve public global, going body support, public good. Advanced use the short scenario one, climate change, text, all front end, defense, running, and sustainability, is technologically useful and economically viable. Reason 4. Such as upgrade university to generate economically trying to better system with energy advance transform against the microfusion, reducing emissions from the economic sector, energy $1 trillion. Well, countries like the Israel are recasting the Mexican mobile against Russia, and was actually causing override money performing it, but countries are performing actually limits, but the world to be sexualized. But energy and force over energy, food, and water, spreading global peace, and it's 24. Limitless contribution and use of energy from the platform that have years we can take the barrel of abundance for everything about energy and food, water, healthcare, competition, for energy colonization, decarbonization is possible. We current energy sources they strive with that completion. Those two. Targeted on existing rules, reveal the challenges of which generation works along with the time arrangement for alliance on moving solutions, which are parts have longest and transmission are stored, high phosphate related build because it's best matrix for attractive combination bullying. Time scenario 2 hybridization, even if you draw hybrid reactions are coming out, they immediately burn the waste produced by nuclear fission concept and not. The eventually help by making nuclear power cleaner thus these to destroy waste organization has to be stored around the US that is going to destroy waste using fusion period hybrid reactors and use waste to see on FCMS. Provide a neutron solution use the waste to fuel the process with reduce waste from fission by 99% sequence design being lower than small computer devices can be compared to other schemes. These are neutrons of all waste producing about confusion for these the goal, but the harvesting the product neutrons can be achieved in the near term. Nuclear waste causing extinction and later against ability ultimate 5. Or of course, the big cancer is prevent them as conclusion draw from study them radiation cost, genetic devastation, genetic damage, and time already utilized in a lot of not only the individual but also systems living the environment reactive to multiple sites is not expired with the reversal for turn 6 cancer so when incubation 600 estimation harvest and radiation effects and that more for our species. Thus, the United States federal government should strengthen this protection and nuclear fission patents for every government agency and personal patents. Only fusion patent that dissolves the agency's private investment while avoiding trade secrets, facilitating universal development will labor institute. Fusion of the funds with relationships, they go naturally bring the problems of our opportunity, eyes are said to be a testing public center, does not have Molly, private sector expanded, the average funds, several electronics, the value of the next always with the commercialization takes life is now improved the exceptionally value between packaging the complexity of various must know how we're not pursuing innovative space for most multi-sector because no one classifies to be high school talent is uniquely attractive as low and light 24. These are the companies like Nancy's and the past and which past investments can equal the new scenario. The importance of IP to track my skill and specialized professionals in the issue goes industry becomes challenging to find talent. Navigation is possible reaching commercial viability and all say carbon free energy days 22. Research on state energy they can monitor the health system low carbon experiment that on big future works. Independently credible legislative discharge to aggressive view, he states on that should be backstanding, creates resilient, future and James 19. Members of Congress justify power to extend the powers of power for the independent agency Congress under the later design decision of separation of powers and legislative statements and directed by delegation from the act really serves as the doing separated federal authority over the energy system. As the collapse multilateral institution resilience extinction agreement 20. Great power audio technician says, relations that ignore terror, disease, nuclear, regional things, global governance, coordination, and academic explain the collapse of SOP, ethics amounts of that made cellular alliance for legislative reviews, the constitution, that judiciary, when they believe about the kind of judiciary, all kill abroad. Okay.
What about fusion as far as diplomacy?
Sure, a couple of things. We think that the process of developing such good technology for the world, given the affirmative, creates opportunities for countries to get together to both work on development, but also to negotiate peace, etc. It specifically cites many past examples of especially nuclear power plants and the nuclear order happening. It cites examples such as the Universal Global Peace Treaty, but also the fact that fusion is addressing global
new technologies will have to force new norms and treaties.
No, that's not necessarily what the argument is making. The Carianis card cites historical examples of particularly reactor-based technology, citing like the Manhattan Project and how that sort of engendered a bit of animosity from other countries for whom the United States was previously allies with. And it describes that developing a technology, specifically fusion reactors, would break path dependency on previous methods for nuclear technology and establish coalitions between countries that would be critical.
But that was in the past, right? They forced fusion technology to then create that new race. And I don't know.
I don't necessarily know if it's a new race, but it's more an idea of instilling an alliance-based system based on fusion technology and based on revitalized international diplomacy.
Sure, how does that overcome Trump's tariffs? Sure,
there's two primary indications of this. First is the fact that Trump has ceased most tariffs except in relation to China, which are what I see as an argument about deterring China. Second, and significantly more importantly, is the argument that Trump has actually forwarded the desire of fusion technology and the fact that the Carianis card, as well as the Aylward card, talks about not necessarily noticing leadership at the time, but more importantly, the significance of developing technology like that. It talks about kind of the effect and the perception and the spillover effect that is established by creating that type of technology.
Understood. The GA card says that fusion technology is being realized now. What part of your plan is to like realize your impact?
We think more innovation is uniquely key. Right now, the DOE is infringing upon fusion patents. That's the mayor as well as Powers part. So fusion development was happening before that, but now it's getting exclusively hampered by the DOE.
It's also a question of VC investment in the status quo. There are several companies that have developed fusion technology. However, it has kind of reached this linchpin point where we're differentiating between cold and hot fusion versus reactors, which is a key distinction that needs to be made. More importantly, it describes the fact that if VC investors, such as AI companies, cyber companies, want to invest their funds as to allow greater development and deployment of that fusion technology, there needs to be the credible signal of intellectual property.
There's more innovation product. What internal link isn't innovation besides the SOP scenario?
Sure. We think the diplomacy scenario does not necessarily have to come with innovation. So we think that just the process of developing fusion alone can do that. We don't think we have to win that innovation.
The 1 2, it's 5 off solvency, leadership, future. I'm going to quickly run over this. Sorry.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we definitely do. Because we're not.
I think.
I'm good.
Key subsets and should be throughout the course of grade 8 by wireless and the only fusion transport that just lets after switching IP that's the first in the work. That's also tiny after dodge every core genetic thought. The captain password instrument for the invisible hand girl. Some key password for each financial instrument of increase. Show value to the capital by the invisible hand model. Corporate power the difference reinforced concept physical theory of the core version of people. All the ones by Microsoft one of the basic ones in the carbon as capitalism is permanently unsustainable. Constitution plus 19 capital physical word immune. It's like a finance institution of quality that's I call it that Carlo. Institution of the point of class on the margin. Involves the wisdom of inevitable version of market the word We are using short contact with the NDCA as suffix with the kind of position of illness or student pilot military by the air from the ethical capital society and from technical village doors. We go for children and go with the romantic fiction or the market. Understand the unit or to charge as the patient here. Ask me to visit the world grace for the house or the condition of the very future human nature as well as capital office alternative social mobility for me. Probably are and those are the we have imagination of automation, robotics, energy, positive people, part of production, those managed figure, use of how to healthcare information. Develop all these rules and research have to share the government planning the opening new space exploration courses distributed to all the useful and possible marketplace around the land property and well being next off the intent kind of license for the government occupied tax contribution technology innovation and then increase research and development for basic government initiative for nuclear fusion innovation and highlighted for 160 evidence and abolish fusion patents and tax credits especially jump out innovation for 2023 financial and technology more than company into the investment build out helping local population and other classification of developing the size of the market price policies the distribution of capital what the content energy investment policy and the long-term limit policies and classification of clean energy investment around the required active of the technology tax rate the document the other one tax rate for the clean energy tax rate distribution of the content both the approach skyrocket innovation block 20 from what we find is the basic agriculture conversation in the level of the market and the ways in which part of the then we need to help you private investor capital government. We need to get already the loan innovators and the investment makes some people. In addition to how we can partner with housing birds, government doing gaps in funding the market readiness, the government must be the opposite guard funding. Just not the work of the national commission council over all the doors already the commission council going to always take most any council the further budget the funding back by reducing capital with the market and the basic grant national basic policy helping boarding. Why the active future policy the early and the basis well both above private partnership and south of hockey backlogs on average. Before both courts of government challenge and the above back the side by 45%, towards being side by back that is what the down by board doing technology solution and from the board distribution you manage to three reps and users regardless of the background of responsibility with new technology solutions looking forward more passive time litigation in March 17 looking past the time to end time litigation we're seeing because then for more than involved back on next small business innovation about 18. The later average entrepreneurs by the number of businesses to the start of one sales growth every year every day. That's our change for company reached by half one million labels. Lots of products loss innovation global content building. Continue innovation is key. Solve AMR with value all in one. AMR urges that developing vaccine promising solution vaccine reduction that incentive reduction. AMR and vaccine increase and suddenly that's mostly AMR. Vaccine not available to reduce would provide information of the possibly export vaccine to respond to AMR. Vaccine comes to development research with technology. AMR process station block 16. AMR process can be designed to provide the shows from the global country representatives. The more visible as the become extra point on. People come to invest in AMR not that other way next off tax organized conduction has the budget reconciliation the budget that's an average of 20 therefore 10 if the budget doesn't want to close to the finance for requiring or they possibly include military readiness tax requirements for the remaining or the general that's one bill act for the question agenda break 1 likely of statute applies to the university within the possible legislation in order to have the country draft and not legislation one legislation passage is the by tax law 24 license based on legislation the English has a regular policy for one of my manufacturing for single license only to do is that the US manufacturing for urban tax Orange for government that's the advisory police getting increase in investment further reduction of payroll advisory for lifetime pay compensation jargon that's what one in this five there's all be managing almost each time these same and for private research amended anything and provided any regulatory responsibility short of things right to initiate norms and right also they was by ethics market by ethics solve team one fish bill talk to me L goes more other than officially but infinitely small goes from 19th century last one for the intake part beyond the never got to 100% more entry of the high grade version. This is what I mean right now that we have to pressure the each item may be quite limited. The risk of life is about 2 scientific trade rate possible galaxy. As of not a few from the conservation of unshaded very confidence and the data of the crisis competition because it's countries which prevent the public barrier based on curiosity. So about 3 the NIS it's coming all hype so the mass mediation the experience a little bit of not with the everything to find not the right to recognize that by the person so the SMPs impact of all something that actually happen now that's going to through shadow of the power the agency economics free no impact for I think that very as pretty hard to the other thing when for the other workers to the user something very failure or something on the other call on course explanation matters of electricity or the world with the grace that know to be like close to block function or high process based all because conversation divided president of exercise after freedom and to the president exercise of really leadership manage one structure based to China's rise was taking economic information and conflict as in the national go power the inheritance of these trans following defense of urge that really will that's part of more complicated follow back against us national great the Christian chancy like I don't on the world stage through the lines of says anything about future being military power at best strength to energy market leadership is relevant leadership development military power lose 24 no take health and guarantee military events other term military system for goal leadership charging what goal does this most situation only one factor among many the only line belongs to us it impacts about trying to investigate power not a cause them the 21 I think just in valuation in terms of a radical position in invention also go figure government just countries and body ethics terrorism and source of the innovation and hazard of emergency power before the announced initially so we can on the vaccination of the design for the vision pilot technology and body viability the country state the US terrorist and suspension of drugs to the positive terrorists Trump the diplomacy is crazy cooks mechanics like each other not obviously involved in the country another government diplomatic possibly lost just a very little diplomacy working with the other kinds of the comics of the classic program where Trump's sort of short and there's no effect about that because funny what we do about the outcomes fine extension report figure acting everything to know what level of innovation really far less inequality is wrong. People probably will not be able to afford to use technology, but it's cause war anyway. In 15 income inequality, not smart country high economic vision that we could really see not even more than interaction with anybody far from significant using most of the regression tests where they go with the conflict vision for the questions of everything and the diversity and ways of future events. One all class countries, various countries aggregate action impossible companies do no impacts to better 24. Yeah, actually I got about 1% actually like 1 universities interaction for the 20% low conflict and 50% travel. I sort of already raised the air precipitation factors. Argue the long stairs very unlikely. Very likely warming the moderate soil predicted realistic facts will be moderate growing body temperature warming mass variability notably at many tests no due to waste ores and have those ores in even 22 so many reactors in flowing to the 40 reactors optical being pushed 188,000 metric tons of ability to also you got mountain of fragility 100,000 metric tons per year ocean is a joke because against issues like exposure to the waste back end is no internally to that impacts it's not by every it's not quite no one pushing there's no energy wars act 16 and what's going to do the president is like the state of the research much of the data science and report right that's the oil crisis market crisis
I just want to status quo is always a launch option. Oh, and more simple, but I read it.
There was no reason here. No. Okay. The CAFK, your alternative is socialist planning. What does this look like?
First, it would ban IP. Two, if you orient the economy toward like man and control, so government control all facets of the economy. We think that this leads to a rapid phase out of the private sector.
Sure. So do you just fiat the government just suddenly takes control of the entire economy?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So like what happens to like private corporations?
They would be phased out. The government would control what the private sector might be like a thing, like companies might be a thing, but they would be under the control of the government. The government would dictate where they get their funding from. It would ban all the IP that they currently have.
That's not say just fiat the government.
Yeah, we don't fiat like any private actors. We just fiat the government. No.
The tax incentives counterpart. What is a tax credit or tax incentive?
Yeah, they would give the private sector like incentives and tax credits, like tax breaks. So like when they go to file their taxes, they would get money off if they increase their innovation.
Okay, sure.
That's the first one. The second point is like government fund.
Sure. Backlogs deck small businesses. Your Macaulay card just said, it says that AMR is a global threat, so why would small businesses be enough to combat this threat?
The melancholy evidence is just about the backbone of second small businesses. We think that US innovation, i.e. like vaccines and those types of innovation would be enough to solve our impact. One, we think that that solves the US outbreak. Two, we think that because of like some market incentives,
Companies like Moderna and Pfizer are the ones who make the vaccines, those are like billions and trillions.
Our evidence says that those big companies don't have an incentive to produce new vaccines to solve new threats. Our evidence says that small businesses are the key instrument linked to solving them because they have like profit incentives to actually innovate new areas and new vaccines.
Okay, sure, that's fine.
What's the net benefit to the tax incentives counterpart?
So,
What can politics be in that?
no.
Okay. Budget passes now. It says that like a guidance resolution was passed. Why does this indicate that the entire bill will be passed?
The bottom part of the card talks about why Trump is pushing the momentum. The top part of the card talks about why the Republican leaders are finalizing this reconciliation measure before the Memorial Day.
But Trump has like pushed this bill since like the start of this term. Why is it?
Well, our evidence says that we are on the brink of it passing now, but we think that the plan would be.
Say that?
Yeah, like the part I just talked to you about it passing before the Memorial. Do you think that proves that we are on the brink now about towards passage?
All right, start from. $50 seconds taken, plus 20 seconds taken. That's a minute, 10, 8, thank you. I'm setting it up, not standing. It should be set. Let me know when everyone has it. The order. I guess we'll just put solvency at the top now. So solvency, the leadership advantage, the futurity advantage, and then case in the order of the one, or and then off case in the order of the ones. So that's T subsets, cap K, the incentives counterplan, the log, disadd, the tax system. Actually, I'm not sure if that was any of the other ones. Okay. Does anyone need that?
I know, but I just need a second.
Yeah, no worries. All right. Panel, are we good? All right. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, cool. Last, are you good? Okay. There are no verbal objections. Start.
One and C1 was a joker card, but we agree there are obstacles. The evidence doesn't assume the influx of investment that results from the plan, which is key to overcoming these barriers. Framing issues that they don't assume the downstream ramifications of the investment that would result. Fusion is possible. Zero lithium and tritium is constantly regenerated through plasma mixture. Gen 16 tritium cells of industry once reactors operating safely. Alternative to tritium is hard reactor from DD fusion. Tritium can produce a converted with the DD fuel will be some tritium generated. No
all generated cumulative for the fuel supply to the snow card. It assumes steps supposed to be but development is slowing down because we don't have active gas halls by increasing investment for town commercialization. That's low and white plus bear. IT is only slowing down because they don't have the manpower investment scale up to AC3 with the NTI was the NIF card. But no, this argument is wrong. The Gilbert walk or pasta. The bear card say that the advancements are being small, but they can also exponentially get larger. Now the SOP argument, no, it's not that. We've got cards specifically about statistical wide fusion, specifically is able to solve that. They say SOP is a line argument.
I have 7-10.
They say SOP is a line already happening. This argument is wrong. The card said whether or not it's already happening, the fusion data is skyrocketing. Advantage leadership. 1 and C1 structural barriers to China rises. This argument is wrong. Hildebrand was 6 years later say China is rising already. 1 and C2 he said that all causes no. This argument is wrong. They say they view fusion as the linchpin to their power. They say leadership is irrelevant to military power. No, it says they view fusion as the linchpin to commanding control of the economy, expanding their toward their state. They say no. The re-highlighted Wong. This argument is wrong. It is cherry picked up Wong and highlighted down to IQ. Wong specifically talks about how China is going to use technology in order to command and control the economy. The no solves the argument. No, the scope is not able to solve the powers of the bear card. You need to say that DOE is infringing the status quo. The cooperation argument. No, countries don't aid the US. They were able to back down the terrorists, and it specifically says that fusion breaks fast defense is able to solve. They say Trump choose diplomacy. Again, this argument is from a past term, and obviously it's not assumed what fusion technology is able to do. The meltdown argument, we're not going to go forward inequality, not extending it. Advantage 2. Climate is a nonlinear impact that expands exponentially. The card does not assume the ability of leaders in rapidly developing and being able to solve the climate. Even if it doesn't cause extinction, you can still build billions of people because of mass starvation, nuclear waste, we even know it's not that it's inevitable. But it says fusion is able to solve that through recycling of molecules. In fact, the Olsen argument, no, it's not a joke. Nuclear meltdown stuff from the past don't prove what's able to happen in the status quo. The energy wars argument just answered energy wars and not drop water and food wars would be those independent existential impact that goes nuclear. Independently, energy wars go nuclear. The argument is that in the status quo right now, energy is declining right now, but fusion technology is able to cause for that by creating infinite energy. T. First is that we need a text release in which the text is then to be function we expand eligibility of the counter interpretation A B subject 69. What's defined within the boundary area of its section requires something to be completely separate for a after the limit of 3 hours meaning the net will always be an OP generics that not make a sale as it is literally impossible to find in all of it. And 1B is predictability of the preferred legal definition. C is no office functional limits that words in generics. Like D is feasibility good is good enough cat. First is framework way the implementation of the plan. The alternative must have been unique to the series solvency. Any other interpretation is utopian, or which are voted key to class efficacy and fairness. Second is appropriate government regulation of use of technologies. The next step to green technology stop 24. Fusion of the ultimate social funding the electricity board place need to reduce carbon emission use of power really takes on the new importance system also capable of being dramatically increased global electricity demand example the study takes factors like this the future development harnessing future of potential economic and environmental value eliminating 41 plan to be sales from ground support in addition one of aviation companies minimize environmental fusion and play a major role in meeting future electricity needs achieving global net zero carbon goals and growth increasing consumption or sustainable growth 23. Rate of global population growth to be consistent with high population going to be the popular growing multi-year is more than the number of people is expansion when the capital Hispanic GDP capitalism doesn't have to be equal to 1970 million estimates 40% of people live in income less than me with even austerity far beyond the junior thatcher so the fully dominating with society mental schools regulations of home healthy enough living and after climate crisis within the world the deep review analysis by the per capita emission of 1990 to 50 equals over from interconnected fosters under the decade unique company with rapidly libertarian over the leader should be large as the government and we friends nuclear should be willing to order dramatically government go on to later BC growth continue mark that I continue. 4 is permutation from the old never come links instead of 5 is cause for short-term collapse economy to motivate diverse share press make all of the populace and inevitably yes all for environmental loss of the 2021. Any capital study is not supported by the capitalism the cause the problem with the best solution implemented fully economic which again is historical increases in phenomenon have happened under any alternative capital primary generalized to the new world low property habitat which is more higher rising racist opinion has just going about consequences outweigh mark that outweigh. 6 is alternative fails and students reports have been 22. Improve the behavior of verticals to help in education like with managed drugs and neighbors and then the living group and the human population and street property of aging on the purpose of was like we're on research video the reason because good leads and the zeros on the side now making enemies more powerful like science and defensive power to prevent the research because every major social severe as a result of some of the casting control reduces supply of leverage severe learning research get Chinese back more than a back. Instead of First is permutation quote, second is permutation determined by third is plan and all other regions to play force already funding is proceed as a third investment for CPR also and 23 to consider studies sustained money given local conditions the changes control of the government study as sustained money may limit the investment 5 fast key versus trade seekers employed inserted for reference. B is quality only feature pattern for the highest quality innovation that's low then when inserted for reference. C is the multiple counterpart with capable of legislature infinite legislature that 2 C is always behind this vertical around 7 is R&D tax rate has no correlation with youth innovation empirically melted has been 34 R&D cracks rate not generating innovative continuing aggregate increases the quantity of innovation or measures that induce over research the effective the straight level R&D tax credit very striking. The 8 is the links to net benefit which cracks the economy also 16 abolishing patents and be rigorously patent and hard to use innovation patents making the US where represent half of the general prolific patents and patent major economic activity patents correlate with R&D
eliminating facts having negative effects on use going to be managed as we go training costs the potential for an so much in this instance going to implement technological amendment if how many sentences advanced in the 9 links to clock the one skyrocket is a trigger drop back score collectors. First, the door below down charge of prosecuting judges and 24 for pandemic because the state local court delays been running juju vacancy lawyers to delay crossing the image many cases today is more like market come like second is Don Justice given 23 about 100 for judges government drop down to like 6 20 column high 3 is Trump scores anyways couple early 24 rippling is your level of liberty makes you Jordan defense and like Trump including potentially solid several because every paper just trouble out the point majority of the question Trump is Supreme Court lower powers the person is prepared to be over time just to lead him on to get out at DC force to turn out to survive by partisans for cost commies that accelerates the process that's fair it's a reference 5 to start development is also supported by big tech. Even they have to state the outcome of fusion that's power. But 6 the solve any environmental impact. The GA mirror shows the fusion which is able to solve for any of the effects of this. 7 is not leaving other cards about fusion. And what is explicitly advocates for Congress to act with plan. 9 is 10 9 still internally D backlogs. Decades small companies in AMR innovation. One of the Macaulay is highlighted down. Nothing it says big pharma companies. It's not a connection between big pharma companies and the small companies that the link talks about. 10 no AMR impact. 22. I mean, first finding APR right behind this is my main criteria problem. The true reason right away. APR by any converting the driver to significantly convening new way talking business representing the capital in the formation of business party. Even some money where the use the individual opportunity which resistant effects. Tax effects. First is it won't cost everything's going more debt. Tax revenue running first for having the offset the tax our tax business law which for by the calling never going to become law high spending good the Senate goes to Asia for the modern Republicans worry about the defense Medicaid. Second, we start after extend the chart from above the powers and bear charts that I said on the four like this. Fourth big tech law is overpowered to make sure it gets back towards 23. Commerce Fund Act was been an income and practice all around some way no one's thinking about assets and in terms of lobbying for companies. Said an estimated 250 million over the short course. 5 the absolute impact. First is that fusion technology creates diplomatic alliances and diffuse wars. That's carried out that order for fees that they drop. Using as a linchpin of great power competition because it powers all of the technology. So it comes first, it determines sees and solves every impact listed in logical and start. You should read it because it says climate, energy production, and famine, which all the one is able to solve. That was not the case, but independent, internally build is an extension of the biotech and start 23. Biotech companies face financial hardship because they do the taxing laws with the private research companies, CCA sector 174 because all R&D expenses need amortize for a period of time after loss of tax and for companies feeling significant R&D spending companies now have only 20% of their give tax liability increase to $10,000 a little bit of fake taxes. Trump is all because it cuts to NIH running that way. 25. As the system that Trump's involved in scientific community, the extension is funding by the NIH. The FDA wants to know to change the NIH policy, limit the funding and direct cost of vision because that's essentially what typically provide data. This is also research for trimming back the NIH funding for solve research at the university way back when they can for the reason about the start of the investors already noticing effects. Go back to the core clock to set. I'm gonna read that last one. Smart. Connors about it prescribes you and argumentative rigor. This was all. Courts are focused on this case, including Mickey 24. Supreme Court's decision virtually guarantees significant consequences. Local representatives are going to see Ohio, the APA court should this to make the federal court constitutions are already overtaxed. Not going to overtax.
I want to start on the tax incentives counterclaim. We've made the claim that R&D funding is uncertain. Why is the plan also not uncertain to innovators? I'm confused. Okay, we passed a bill that increases funding. The act that passes the act. Why is the act also not uncertain to investors? Why would they not think that Trump would just roll back the plan? They don't know about your VIU.
No, it's a question of patents and certainty of
yeah, okay. Why? How would they not know that Trump would just roll back the patents?
Well, because Trump has forwarded a platform like nuclear fusion.
Okay, so he likes nuclear fusion. Why? The counterclaim increases innovation for nuclear fusion.
Yes, there's two parts. First,
first is zero.
No, first is not zero. Second is the Bear and Powers card says that there are two ways for the plan to be perceived. The first is that when the administration likes fusion patents, that is uniquely key. The second, and argument that is also important to consider, is it talks about the fact that investor certainty is premised off of two factors: talent and patents. Talented workers who are working in academia right now researching fusion only come to work for major fusion corporations when they have a guarantee that they will be secure in terms of patentability. Otherwise, they're going to keep working in academia.
So the counterclaim just gives them like a bunch of money. It also fiats like public-private partnership. Why is that not so?
Yeah, that is not sufficient. A, we have read arguments that type of R&D funding is uncertain. B, we have read a card that would strand assets which would collapse the economy. C, is that the Powers card and the Bear card specifically about fusion patents describe how 4 reactors require certainty.
I want to talk about the Melnick and Smith evidence. R&D tax credits have no correlation. What is the warrant for why they have that?
R&D tax credits may not encourage innovative activity in their
It takes an empirical look at all the past. instances when tax credits have been used, from a state level R&D tax credit study.
Yeah, okay, so it's state level, not national.
It's
Like state being international.
No, the argument is that first, it is entirely based in statistics and empirical analysis of the past. Second is it talks about how it engenders bad competition between companies, whereas it talks about how the patentability system engenders good.
I want to talk about the sustainability part you read on the packet.
Yeah.
Growth in resource consumption is sustainable, innovation will be coupled with solve ecological risks. Why doesn't this solve them? Why doesn't this solve every ecological impact argument?
But because it talks about the innovation actually needing to happen. It says
Right, but this part talks
happens.
about why that innovation is inevitable in the status quo.
No, that's not the argument it makes. It says the innovation will happen in the status quo as long as companies continue to push forward new theories under a system of capitalism.
Right, okay, yes, I'm talking about if we kick the captain, why does this not solve your innovation, your impacts on the status quo? You just said that innovation is inevitable under capitalist, innovation society. You literally just told me that it's inevitable under capitalist.
It's not a system of inevitability, it's
You literally just told
it's
me
a linear system that says that innovation, as in the past, will continue to increase, but to do so, you would need to maintain a system of capitalism.
Okay, yeah, the quo is capitalism. Okay, sure. 10 minutes.
Probably if anyone managed to then follow politics, so there are certain. Policy, advantage one, advantage two. Then wherever you put one, I feel available ones. Is that right?
Yeah, no, sorry. There, I'm still getting that.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
All the active important journal interface the basic dogs only must become more than this. They can cover dog innovation, jobs, the multi-method approach, match with artists in the innovation direct government funding establishment of a bipartisan innovation council, united resources and efficiency and public-private partnership use is not a model of innovative collaboration in and that will only be maximized. That's a judgment. The counterpoint is logical extension of the view, the counterpoint is efficiency premium paper, a risk of solvency and even definitely about that word, those ones that benefit counterpoint efficiency. Now patents and standards of prepare future patents good for fairness education that make it impossible for us to garner offense as a part of the counterpoint seconds to play above to implement in any type of combination. Definitely still that there's links to that benefit and they don't again unless they explain a permutation but one yard like due to block that benefit is not true already at the top. The link is predicated off of the increase of patent litigation over due to the fusion of counterpoint bans any possibility of it. The uncertainty deficit is zero. There's no impact is perceived similarly. They can perceived similarly to the others. They can't perceive greater either. So like back to both of them, but it doesn't matter because there's no impact to it anyway. So why it would change it, but it doesn't create more certainty because the stock management protection and it doesn't take into account the stock management doesn't ensure certainty because it ensures certain funding by giving it to them straight instead of just having a patent maybe attracting venture capital later. Next, trade secrets forces open innovation, which definitely solves and there's no warrant for why trade secrets bad here. So definitely hold the line here. But even if they do win trade secrets bad, they can do Saddam, which definitely forces open innovation. The loan white is wrong. Sometimes does not need to stop the DOE and virgin off as an order to solve usual investment estimated using the reason they want to see evidence of faster keys to HDR adjustment for R&D, which they kind of solve once you want white 24. We have the development innovation to provide rather than aggressive and increasing one later with the development to substantial R&D investment again. Claim solve miracles with the and R&D that without it being friends with the time to something usually is about to go over the time this is some of the other renewable development next is unlimited multi coming good to begin looking at it, we should have this actually, we get onto the handle that best way. Research is invited students to compare high quality cars with students who are available to the connected car. Then it's going to the evidence and the parents are reciprocal. They get personalized research and with you with the demands. Just by women trying to go through any extrapolations, but also good to count on if you comes up there. Evidence also it's more generic. So it's like the app any of these is straight skill sheet loaded. Only been counting checks all off the word. The argument on the TV. Artists definitely saw the document is definitely wrong. Only we have to ask specific evidence about that specific evidence one Martin, and it's just about passive, it doesn't do public, private, or anything into that. Accidental Martin, also still there's already supporting innovation, so the research that's something not the legal attorneys that people help and you feel that such a innovation that have races mobility or district by why not speak. Resolution that is used in German only second part, which is the artists like the privilege of innovation of partner to complement the course of war, resolution is accurate with a point of percent market, that can improve innovation performance, can be arguments about in terms of innovation and capacity, how many have those capacity last year for the R&D recruiting highly qualified R&D and staff next to the econ sub is about banning all patents, not fusion patents in this program. Trump serves definitely definitely don't the economy as it's that later. Someone who can make that as a checks that after because of the best important money that using that as organization so getting back to the and if the president the tribune that comes in using the domestic running so that makes sense and then if you also the trouble the master structure of the work something for working for you separately so after COVID 2008 COVID something. First, of using failures and the debate of the minister relies on the other because escape energy dependency of the new or energy sustainability was recently artists 2 years more recently there's reverse of use and capacity even now also and 80s to experience the wrong experimental results exactly when there's ever reaction to side content except the banana second that's all some still feeling all power the best because the system is wrong because we have rapid growth of excess of water only power sections aligned with the uncertainty faculty is sustainable and able to match us in the possible scale up then the wrong is humanly impossible fusion in today's time no about possible no supply speed before future US accidental because in other countries that Jupiter and galaxy Jupiter is also not preferred, but their evidence is older. We already said that year from her nation is 0, just not later. It is 20 from 2016 and massive phenomenon every more than last year. Massive doesn't matter because it doesn't scale up at all. It's all high and since their evidence is wrong, as you see. The only two studies that project was to scale up really something like that. That was I heard about completion that team nuclear reactor design and the literature. They wanted to do the nuclear scale the project circle from the economy. The part for talking about the learning platform. Setbacks of COVID-19 and the subjects of the family. Moving back to the also small period numbers of the first chemistry. There are insights. Two sources of data started in mass. When you started in the currently working on the 60 best sources so it's really good. When we follow the university, here is sustainable on science important 17 years here representation of people. Regarding to the child from the control of the main energy. These knowledge is sustainable. The generic after so you're saying you should know you can't be scaled out for simplicity. You should eliminate the scaling back from reality. Every new future model against the net 2050. So we're saying it's about global. 13. Also, we're not traded stupid only takes another pressure. The platform one decision question with 50,000 based also based on shares again. We're saying treatment that treatment next is SB. This animal is yearly. Drop the focus on IP laws constantly changing every 4 weeks. Half this year. We even know reason why also one instance of SB preparation explores a check. The air doesn't say natural and every person is supposed to engage in math. The executive or three producers zero. Right on the impact. Answer was not. Did not answer that at all. Sugar court ruling down. Yes, some criminal immunity also as well as least line has already happened. That was a very evidence that conceded leadership. China never rise most attention they get the struggle to develop research in Chinese which is one of the domestic national policy. Their evidence doesn't not about barriers, it's about intent and all we can ask question. Chapter there 2041 I think the one thing for government you want is to copy the business like systematic is copies of living further the service of those of a and one like how will not sustainability and each population corruption in the body the information also drive emissions in the energy not single the opposite is how they make all the smaller the more immediate this to see it all causes there's always the other military one only strengthens energy market but doesn't allow China to output use military development, use military 3 times different match checks and use relevant is false strategy because other countries like countries traditional military strategy will divide outweigh the use to head and all of those that Lewis and also Trump words from Lewis, so they definitely take out that scenario there. Next is next is cooperation. This makes no sense on the aspects of scenarios about nuclear American for fusion energy because global commission this other fusion energy that would draw in a treaty precedent based on the public developing countries. That's not the act actually the voter because unless the act period mechanisms that atoms and zeros are often their super solidity, all of their extrapolation class was literally BS. No reason oil-based economies like Southeast Russia would follow on and from the stuff because a recent scenario isn't leaker and Trump definitely don't want to share an external relationship to Muslim Trump avoided working with lies people that Paris agreement mechanism is not a thumper because the first term he didn't do that. Next meltdown he conceded the no but the meltdown all nuclear reactors straight no you become closer to your oils that the oils that takes the ultimate part on futurity on the futurity. First on futurity is all causes common more is another overwhelmed you. All causes were instrumented to start here from 2021. The drop LDL causes no it can't solve because condition is not existential and IBC models don't know empirical studies that these competitive evidence and more is not intergenic because the drugs only pushes that making progress on the models are not relative to observing studies like that. I can see it all the research from outside ozone depletion and the aerosol cut and aerosols are already into the ozone stuff here, but no research more want to see premises only about energy power also for this 20 minutes about that transform that is long term quantity that is oil which is basically when one sees another one of the research and the really was about and I think that the research and market without resources, but the internal physical energy so extend the work cards and resource more from here because disagreement deficit differences cooperation resources water oil and minerals which is all of their words because then we did drop the package. It's about all of the lines though. I'm good for the thoughts.
Okay, cool. I want to start off on the extra T argument, but what's the word for that?
Sure, it's just if you stand up in the 1 hour and say that you still solve the cooperation scenario because you do you do what is in the card, then we'll take that extra T.
What do you mean, what is in the card, what does that mean?
Sure, so the card is in context to creating a new treaty in line with precedent from the past, like it's about what we could do when fusion technology happens. It involves like the card is about talking about development.
That's one instance of it, that's fine. The low and white card. This recut of the low and white card you've inserted describes how patents are a key system. Independently, you've omitted the next 3 paragraphs from the original card that talk about how patents are the key solution. Why do you think this is an advocate for you?
Because it specifically says that it's key to R&D investment. Like the entire basis of innovation.
So the argument is that patenting is key to R&D investment. If you abolish fusion patents, how are you able to provide the sustainability of R&D investment?
Why are patents key? Because of R&D investment. Innovation
patents. R&D investments are key because of patent rights. Okay. I'm confused how you're going to solve it.
Any sense. What your argument is that patents are key to increase venture capital from the private sector.
Okay,
you can replace that and you switch the thing.
That's wrong. The tax incentive solve argument in the Martin card is about fiscal incentives for R&D in terms of like the UK R&D tax relief. What does that have to do with the United States?
It's still empirical evidence that says that R&D investment is specifically solved.
That evidence is about SMEs. How's that? And how's
your evidence even more generic?
No, how is it literally about fusion patents? You were reading evidence about UK
R&D fails from the American part?
No, I'm talking about your Martin 23 card, which is your truancy advocate for tax incentive solve.
It's about empirics overall. Even if it's SMEs, that's literally like small, it literally proves that it's empirical. Even if you don't buy that, we recognize that R&D incentives are good for fusion.
Okay.
That was the one in solvency.
The 2020's the Chilean card is about the ITER project, which has been bookmarked for 2035. The 1AC has made a claim about fusion hybridization, which will come before that in 2027. What is the line up here? What is this relevant?
I don't worry.
The Chilean card on the quote, the only 2020 project listing is failing to scale up.
Oh, solvency.
Yes, the 1AC has made a distinction between hybrid fusion and total fusion, saying that hybrid fusion next step to total fusion coming in 2027. This is about the ITER reaction, which is a goal for total fusion. I'm confused why this applies.
Well, this just proves that it's scaling up, and I don't know what the warrant would be, even if it's hybrid fusion, because you haven't said why hybrid fusion is different from total fusion.
Yeah, there's an entire scenario under the 1AC about that. That's fine. The tritium shortage, the 1AC makes a claim that fusion is able to regenerate tritium shortage, which is why we don't need it. Why does this MasterCard apply?
Well, because it says the shortage is sure, you can't just further improbable innovation is not going to just solve that.
Yeah, that's not how science works. That's fine.
The one else, I'll get to it.
Actually, we're gonna take a second to prep. We have 8:50 starting now. We're gonna Oh, yeah. Did the same one, or did you understand?
It's the caption, the politics, the quality.
Yeah.
That was good. Politics they drop the union counterpoint itself, they often want to build back overcome the straight because if the other bills ever pass, there's no more for help. The absolute impact and cost, there's no cost application of the Trump card wasn't to receive. Lots of trying to pay the office ways mistakes money to NIH, universities, FDA. It's not a matter for small business, but it's not a matter for small business, but if Bruce tried to act will fail. Comments go to forget we did one argument bishop like this key involved in the argument of the court. When the victim next is necessary to happen by various problems. Uses no unique case links or that medicine consequence. We lost the loss of hospital would always think all other opportunities ready to the opportunity consider. That's no great time. This charge for situation really special architecture systems. This is 6 years now against either speed. Now please use the direct argument this will take all their office making public confidence prior theory. Be that next function result we want to know about the acquisition. You have the negative call. 281 was overloaded after an instance wrong back on the slow down turning down 8 delays that typically decrease. Down short is that execution decrease. A if it causes like evidence collection in court seeking call C judge essentially they're chilling with existing cases now. They're renewing with only with the link word. That's where the Fox slide scale is being linked to directly beneath the shield. That's some amount of hog. It probably never was about minimizing one short is trending. It says that small business and lawmakers already been adding just now that was not shortage. That's considered below B judge's perception. They believe back off to now. There's something within court of no wrong perspective. Wasn't enough that very position that the issue we're talking to the lawyer below the pandemic situation because after 4.6.3 we have 9 years I think it's been lost 5 years pay increases solve now it's all shortages for we're not so this is where we're studying how the outcome arrives from the test issues market test issues be back also appeals are defining in court upholding local court decision back before but this is during this package 23 out 1.8 so below the pandemic over the course of local 3 18 and that market we have
Rose 86 2023 1 Ryan 7 2022 Corvus has 2022. It's the Hernandez as can see that text before the solving and who's that being adopted now. That's inserted below for reference. We do not have to read the shitty cards that if we do judges what the judge's card is. The card is terrible. It's about why appointing judges in 2023 was slow. The appointment process is not about backlogs at all. Their cards in 2023, those judges have been appointed already. There's no other warrant that wasn't answered about. Police speakers come down and it's wrong. The current clearly is about the Supreme Court, not district courts. We get new answers, but having to do this matter because our uniqueness is that there's some breathing room now. Having to files bipartisan for there's no warrant for why this matters backed by Congress literally means nothing in the concept of only politics. We get new answers. The link obviously outweighs when they have dropped key warrants. These files of future detect obviously does not apply. So it only applies to politics. It's not sexualized clock strike. Even if they are right, proves that companies will compete with small big companies will compete with small businesses and cause infinite litigation. 366 pass laws. Also, no warrant in the 2C should hold the line. Winning that new vaccines are key takes this argument out. Their cards might take disease, but not AMR. There's a key distinction. 267 was no link. Their indication to the link turn is that they have read 0 cards in this. They have no link defense. This is 0. They have no cause to say that these infringements are causing harm now, or that holders are relitigating the bundle act that allows governments to legally take these patents. Even if they want to say labels from patents broadly, they drop heavy warrant entity of cases means they are time consuming and be circumstances to adjudicate. It also causes secondary appeals, which comes to court with litigation. That's why they have dropped every warrant coming out of this 2C, which means you should hold the line in one yard. And even if there's only 8 companies now, the patent opens the floodgates, the patent files candidates and you know what? Once the city patent them to the court, 27% of the patent files go before the jury, and patent on the agenda with patient JA, filing a patent, rules which is the consequence of a patent, the city council of the bottom of what is complete evidence that private usually companies should pay close attention to the competitors filing charges to take action against patents, which would obviously increase litigation that's inserted below and enforcement going before the law. 19 enforce actions that extensive aberration of active against the use of production includes enforce costs and enforce increase the level of active that produce more enforcement of the link officer states that every internal link about why it destroys backlog and it destroys innovation and innovation strategy. 68 with no internal link drop small businesses are key in innovation like vaccines. It's all AMR. No new innovation is key to develop AMR vaccines. It creates new approaches and development processes through R&D, which produces infections and antibiotic usage to contain AMR pathogens fully and talk short small businesses. Innovation and delayed active time infection destroys sales growth and employment and causes product delays. That concentration is going public in half job boards that's not by others. They say big pharma is wrong. Our evidence is that big pharma structurally ignoring AMR that's now recruits to try or die from small businesses. 289 no impact AMR concentration is non-linear with the visible symptoms that are with reports cause sudden and things that spread faster. It will be untreatable as one evidence. Nothing is wrong. So about small businesses out there, that's one instance of something that might solve AMR, but getting that innovation into vaccines and getting it spread out is only after small business innovation. With proving it's really must come first. Their breakthroughs are in a small lab, which obviously proves the backlog prevent that innovation from actualizing. 10 was that the court to cook now that every case is about overturning previous regulations, and the judge is going to answer that topic. Obviously, the evidence is wrong. It's not assumed there's time for court will delegate to authorities. No authorities in the agency. There's not such a worry all before. Other push on the framework conversation with the delegate with the most fun scope of the life. Only 74 evidence really designed by the practice to hold. We got on the service has created the short and challenging interpretation of the resolution. Country and begins from the interpretation of that has not something compulsory. They see which the right the short also before it's saying other representation. Very great rules of the Slavic average price statute to reduce energy for invention.
Can I be local verification? Yeah. On uniqueness, can you tell me which cards you started? I read the Hernandez, Hernandez evidence, Corbin evidence. Okay. Bagatelle, second Hernandez. You read the second Hernandez? Yeah. Okay.
Have you Yeah.
Two thirty use, four or 210 remaining.
Well.
Count. One was, it's 1, 2, okay. Then what was the second? Oh. Yeah. It's, okay. Solvency is 4-1. It's just the normal. There should be 2. No, K is. Wait, no, quick. K is K. K is K. Only on the first.
Substitution failed debate. First, the impossibility argument is definitely false. The G24 card is very recent. It says that an experiment committed by General Atomics that proves that has already created a fusion reactor. It's not only 10 minutes long, it's already produced a lot of energy, which proves that it can succeed. Also, the IQ reactor, which is coming in 2025, is also proves that it also works, which means any of their evidence about physical barriers, etc., which are from 2023 and 2022, are proven false by empirics. Now, I'll go on to, and there are no commercialization arguments. All of their arguments are wrong. They assume the status quo, which development is hampered by the DOE. That's the key differential from what our plan does. Our plan is able to overcome the DOE demands, etc., which is able to lead to more innovations. The no ITER reactor Chilean card only says that there's been setbacks, but it doesn't say that ITER won't be developed. So it doesn't have an actual warrant on the Tixium card. It only says that Tixium is limited, but they dropped our card that says that Tixium is infinitely regenerated as long as we have fusion technology now. The ball card answered above. The SAT scenario. Chevron jumps is wrong because is our legislative branch versus the executive branch. The Congress is the legislative branch. The DOE is part of the executive branch. No, Trump number of this because Trump provides uniqueness with scenario and his reason that we need to protect separation of powers. Now the leadership stuff is wrong. No, China rise is not about fusion. Hitler's more recent, and it says that China's ahead in fusion technology, which is the thing that powers all other technologies. Now the thing about fusion technology is wrong. So says it powers every single other technology, powers AI, etc. Because energy is needed for every single thing. The actual key doesn't make any sense. There are things about future development with GF definitely solved down the diplomacy stuff. Trump, our money C card literally assumes Trump is about it says that US diplomacy won't be easy, but it's definitely necessary. Fusion can overcome that barrier, which means that Trump is only uniqueness for us. Now advantage to warming is not warming all we solve all causes. We reduce reliance on oil and all the carbon dioxide emissions, etc. that they look over there. Now the no oil B card, our standards and evidence is not about oil, it's specifically about energy, food, water, healthcare, which they all drop. And fusion seemingly able to solve that because it's limitless in energy and that causes extinction 100% drop impact. Now the decay drop, they did not say reject theories, and they drop utopian fiat and takes our voter, which means the alternative is definitely utopian because it just the government completely changed policy. That's voter. It means you can strike them down a little bit already. Now the counterplay top level, none of their only one card about fusion, and it's complete garbage because it's by just a bachelor. We prefer our evidence, which is much more specific. The counterplay top. The counterplay they drop the low and white card. The stronger warranty for the card for the evidence here is 20 low and white drop. High skill count for the one and two aces. There's no coming back now. Low and white specifically says that collaboration between non-profit and for-profit entities is problematic. It's massive inserted in green, and also they ended the card before the warrant where it says that IP underscores the requirement of high specialized skills, etc. Because the IP is uniquely key to attract specialized professionals such as professional biologists, chemists, data scientists, which is necessary which is uniquely necessary in vision. And apparently their tax solvency stuff is all wrong. The first one is about SMEs, which is not even related to the affirmative. The second one is about quote studies, but those are all
Not going to answer the first.
those are about other things. But no, not going to any other terms, not severance, not a voter. Also no judging versus the two areas that defend infinite world. Trump it's absolutely atrocious. Trump was completely dropped. Simply said Trump wants to appoint new judges, which is going to take a lot of time in the courts. And he also wants to do 50,000 things. All the things that he's doing now, such as with USAID, etc., it's proof that the court clause will just completely drop. So it can't come back. And the court clause said it's definitely not an international link scenario. It's definitely false. It says there's 42 patent families, but there's 3.24 million patent families in the world. I don't know what the math is, but it's probably something like 1 in 1. It's something like 1 in 1 million. Patents that are being filed, which definitely doesn't cause the words compelling. There's only 8 fusion technologies out the money severe card inserted, and there can only be 8 companies worth of litigation, which means that it definitely doesn't happen. But also there's definitely no internal link because their evidence is in context of small companies. But when you read their AMR evidence, it says that global cooperation, etc., is required in order to solve the AMR impact. It literally says the word global cooperation, which means that the Burns evidence is the key internal link, and not only solving diplomacy and the affirmative is the only internal link to this scenario. There's also no AMR impact. Duncan card uses real studies. They just brushed it off with looking answers, but Duncan uses studies as well in the past and says that AMR definitely won't happen in the future because there's just not enough development. There's also no terms case argument against because our fusion companies are only 8 companies, so that means litigation doesn't affect them as much because they're uniquely small and there's less litigation.
What's your last name? 15 years ago. When you finished your graduation, like we have to come back for graduation. Yeah. When you said you were Yeah, darn. Yeah, I think we found it, because I'm like not sure if I'm gonna be long business yet, and I'm kind of new to the law, so I feel like that would help it. Which time was my list, I guess it didn't want, so it was on my list. I mean, I actually like it was a pretty good year for the government. So, yeah, I know, it was like, Michael, being Christian. I was talking to Dan in Georgetown, and he was like, their stats were not particularly good this year. So they have like 80-ish debaters to apply, but like, that's like 10% or something. Yeah. So, I mean, they got me. Who else do you do? That good.
Oh, sorry.
6 of 2. I'm so much longer graduate music. Yeah, I was just 6. Yeah, number 1. I guess in our 2 roles for 6. No, it's just, yeah, it's just me. We lost it. I know it's. I'm not the thing is, you just watch the thing. Yeah, you just watch. Also, the Central is like his best friend. Actually, he's watches so many videos. This is like, because we were
That's.
all right. I kind of 602.
Bob, the captain, the captain,
Wait, Claude, Cafe, Counterplan. Oh,
I
sorry.
just messed up the first.
Oh, you're, sorry,
Wait, no, it's fine.
I should have interrupted.
You're okay. Sorry, where should we start? Claude, Capke, the counterplan, the solvency advantage, and then there's one, and then there's two.
I think we're good.
Everyone has years for constitution outweighs the fact that in fact is not qualified to go American lender. I guess the council of public safety on the use of the key possession that you should also like digital collection all like receipts for other person stuff reading when you should prepare about it. You need to spend about how the courts are operating because in the holistic view of it, you need to spend are absorbed by technology, but the link overcomes that. Whether you're one with the Trump number kit, you're for this and dropped every argument, stuff about appointing judges about Biden and Trump appointing judges near the end of 2023 and 2024 one. Conceded that the appointments already happened to their Supreme Court judges, not federal circuit ones, which the DA is about federal circuits because that's where IP court cases go first. The three, the backlogs more is about why the appointments are slow, not the name cause of clock overall. The 50 K things warrants also wrong since the assertion, not in their evidence. The tech warrants above also assumes this, so that solves it. And also conceded the link controls the direction of uniqueness with me. The link obviously outweighs all of these warrants. But see, 2 hours no link wrong. Probably 1 hour warrant though. Link has no warrant in the Tracy, which means you know there's the tie that her TS policy that cases will get tied up and litigated, which put innovation and insurance company for time. But they probably one of the evidence that one of the evidence that said it's not just the amount of cases, it's literally just the complexity of the patent cases that have gone before, which they dropped and they identified any specific link we win. And the issues that they were right no hard about substantiating the no link. Even for construction still links and incentivize more violence and because of their evidence that the plan would encourage private companies to litigate other companies because the sector is also lucrative. Dropped the new answer in the two agencies. Only a small number of patent families conceded. The 1 year crisis evidence says that the plan would also allow international companies to begin filing in the U.S. with the right about the U.S. market being good. They sadly only a companies thing and also conceded big tech link because big business are so invested they will try to litigate every small business out of oblivion and all the time in money drop when not reported this since the litigation takes over 3 years for a case. Of course it comes in cards. You say no internal, but conceded every warrant. One is a small companies. They're obviously key conceded that approach say that big businesses are structurally ignoring the problem because they are making money and already have their monopolies to use global cooperation. Wrong. Conceded that the distribution of vaccines is not equal corruption in the U.S. Innovative vaccines could become distributed. Jumping evidence wrong. Drop the index of this. It does not say that any is not coming. The word is about that there are some breakthroughs now, but that is one instance of a small firm that proves small businesses are key to spread that technology first. Also cannot get into vaccines which means they don't solve our internal incomes first. They say it's studies, but we agree. Yes, Trans Case, drop that link. The link means big businesses will naturally litigate that will that prevent that was above and waters down the case because it's so expensive they have to use the money here Yeah, onto the cafe. The only answers to yes or with no link, which you already screamed about. Cafe reject the argument, not the team that was on Honda or like they're thinking kind of like that they solve all of their offense because they don't have to worry about the fear about objections and they have to explain why team kind doesn't solve their offense. So they don't even knew which way are so rejected. Onto the counterplan. Conceded that capital square the disposal solve warming, which takes out the first scenario on page 1. Counterplans. Fusion would benefit from tax credits that the miracle evidence promotes energy by making it more attractive to financial incentives like transparent information. Westminster does not single all the language of 2 or 1 year I do not know what cards they're referencing, or they the 1 AC ones or the 2 AC ones you, and I do not know which we are on a use so lean negative because the newness of the 2 are is lean on the by PA still good, still defensive specific degree for our evidence because it's the only side thing. You do not know what evidence they're citing on the loaded white card. They're absolutely cooked because they only have 2 words versus the R&D step. We've already proven it's empirically significant boosted innovation. Now he taxes the relationship for SME in the first card. Yes, that's applicable to fusion because though that sectors is also comprised of small SMEs. They're the ones who need the money, not the corporations. Duh. And the science third card, they dropped this. And here's their reason. It literally says that the dynamic between R&D got turned into supports innovation, not just through spending, but also through talent acquisition. Zero is their first argument because they dropped that, and that's the only reason like low and white is good. They dropped that word and it was highlighted too. Foreign entities and on-profit, that is not our argument. It's private partnerships with the government. This is only within the US. Zero's the foreign entity stuff. I know impact towards yes, Judge Shake, we want that condo. I know infinite worlds we only have to defend two. States have their warrant onto. Anybody's one. First is the atom with 0, Lucas thumb. IP law is constantly changing every 14 after years. Proof, which is 0, the SOP stuff, but there's not just the impact is definitely done for everything else. But they drop the third evidence. This facility says SOP is a lie. It's already and that happens with no impact. There's no structure for the internal link. All they said that fusion is key, but that is not enough. Trump already killed it and so did Congress years ago. That is the first evidence. Their own evidence is not saying that fusion is specifically key, so you should dump it. And it's definitely dumped because of Chevron, and they said it doesn't because it's just legislative and judicial, but their cards don't assume for that. On the first advantage, they say that we don't solve it, but they drop that their evidence for the modeling scenarios about the global commission to accelerate fusion energy that was on tree precedent based on helping developing countries, which isn't the app. Their evidence is not about just increasing fusion energy patents solve the cooperation thing, so it definitely doesn't solve. Also, innovation patent definitely solves it if they conceded that is still the internal link for that because fusion energy is all they definitely does.
$210. Word is advantage 1, advantage 2, solvency, the dissat, the counter. And we good? All right. All right.
It is try or die to prevent U.S.-China war, maintain diplomatic ties, and preserve alliances. It was fully conceded in the 2-hour, which means the marginal risk the counterplan has a deficit, or the DA has minimal impact defense means that form assumption. Voted for it because only we have an external impact with a drop theory argument. It is entirely based on fusion precedent.
Japan's are able to solve for Chinese war, which draws in every extraterritorial argument and causes WMD terrorism and impact. We outweigh entirely on magnitude. The China war would escalate to nuclear war rapidly between two countries, and there's no way to draw it. They would draw in every other ally, which escalates to rapid nuclear war. They have dropped every time frame war, which means you know that's the affirmative on time frame. The China war is rapid, whereas AMR disease is somewhat shadowing in the future, which means again a marginal risk of a deficit counterplay or defense of the dissent means is clearly outcome for something because they are not able to solve the China war. Every internal link to solving for China war is entirely premised off of fusion paths, which only the plan is able to resolve. I know you do not want to vote on utopian fiat, but again, they did not kick out of the game properly in the 2NC, which means it's try or die, and it's also an external team rule, which is something that should factor into your decision. The 2NR did not do it by comparison, dropped all fusion possible boards, which was also embedded defense in the counter plan, which means that if we win, if fusion is possible, and it's only accessible through paths, that means you have to vote affirmative because the 2NR extends the counter plan that explicitly abolishes fusion paths. Fusion is happening in the status quo right now, which they conceded that China right now is weaponizing our domestic use of fusion right now, and the fact that fusion does not exist in the status quo, which means it's try or die out. Every China card they've read about, I did not read any more China defense, which means outweighs on magnitude. International diplomacy is able to solve for every existential impact because they can see that fusion is the key internal link. The AOR card and the Burns card explicitly talk about how fusion technology is able to cause breakthroughs to solve for renewable conflict and is able to solve for disease, which means there's a minimal risk that the app is also able to solve for the impacts of the dissent as well. That was fully conceded in the 2NR, which means that the app is also able to solve for the impacts of the dissent. But other than more on the dissent problem. Or advantage two, we're not going to go for it. No offense there. Solvency was embedded above. We're not going to extend the S&P conflict. And there was no proper defense to fusion that was extended. It cannot be answered and mitigated by the dissent. DA problem. 3 independent ballots you can assign. The first is no internal link. It is an Elam's debate, which means you have ample time to read the 1NC link and internal link evidence that describes small businesses as affected by clog. They have said that small businesses are affected by clog, and their link debate and their link card is highlighted so poorly. It looks like a haiku. Independently, it talks about how small businesses will be affected by clog, but it does not explain how small businesses will then trigger a background check or suits that will affect the big businesses, the big pharma. Their internal link is how big pharma produces vaccines, which means that there is no correlation between small businesses and big businesses, especially when big businesses have an in-house counsel large enough to be able to mitigate all of these suits. There was no way that 8 court cases, which they conceded, would be able to affect those. They talk about complexity, but these cases are not complexity. They're more complex than the status quo right now when the DOE is infringing on and causing frequent patent reversal and causing frequent patent holdups. Independently, they dropped all the defense. Recent breakthroughs show that antiviral resistance can be reversed. Scientists at the Imperial College of London and UT also discovered that inhibiting a bacterial protein called DSPase is essential for shaping resistance proteins. That takes out all of their ABR impact, but independently did not do any defense or explanation of how that's able to turn the impacts, because again, any deficit means you have to vote affirmative. Finally, it says 163 patent families, which answers the link, but conceded there are 3 million in the world. That's a 0.00015% of patents. Complexity doesn't matter because in one case, they can only take so long, especially when fusion company patents only represent 8 companies that above the infinitely small percentage of patents. Uniqueness doesn't matter. The link does not direct the turn of the case because it's 8 companies, which is 0.15% or 0.0015% of all patents, which is not nearly enough to be able to garner about. Their monofield card says that says there's not a sufficient amount of AMR tests, right? There's not an existential amount of AMR tests right now. Now, solvency, again, now go to the counterclaim. It's 100% I've dropped every important card in this round. First is a card on whether or not fusion technology is possible or not, which was again done on the solvency debate, which is the GA card and the bear card, which specifically talk about what patent is preventing fusion technology right now. But the taxes calculate specifically GG because they dropped the high school talent deficit. I know they said they were going to get to it, but they never did. The low and white card says that high school talent, like professors, chemists, and biologists, they uniquely attract the patent. Sorry that we didn't say it's 1AC low and white, but it was also re-extended in the 2AC and in the 1AR. Chemists and biologists are uniquely attracted to patents. It means that the counterclaim can't solve because they quote abolish fusion patents. It means that it doesn't matter how much money a company gets if they don't have the people who know how to make the technology. That is an independent team rule because they've conceded that fusion is independently able to solve for Chinese technology. So if you conclude that they don't have the people to be able to make the fusion technology, there's no way they're actually going to be able to solve for that technology in the first place. It's like if you put 10 high schoolers in a room, gave them $1 trillion to make a do, they still couldn't do it. I mean, it can't happen. It's 100% drop. So counterclaim solvency is still 0%. Independently dropped from here. So far, is the best in the debate. It's about all tax credits where their studies are only about SMEs in the UK, which does not have nothing to do with the UK. Our card is about state and nations' usage of tax credits and how that has never led to an innovation. Their solvency card is only about SMEs, which should also frame the way you evaluate the debate, especially when they didn't accept any sufficiency framing. You should not judge take the counterclaim because our action that doesn't matter that much. No turns case arguments on the court block is that because they dropped the only company litigation that can't affect them as much. So the fact that 0.0015% of patents are only going to affect them, which means that the counterclaim, even if it's able to access the net benefit, there's no legal or internal link to the net benefit. When you're evaluating a counterclaim that could possibly result in the same amount as the act, that means you have to default affirmative on presumption, especially when the affirmative has a fully conceded impact and an independent mechanism to be able to resolve the dissent. Reread the Burns and Carianis evidence because it says we can solve for disease. Counterclaim that can't solve, dissent with no internal link. It clearly. Good debate. Good debate. Card
Thanks, Mark.